Hello, everyone, and welcome to the episode 71 of the Office Hours podcast. Today, we're happy to welcome back Mo, and let's see what sort of interesting stuff we're going to be talking about today. Take it away, Mo.
Thank you, Vasili. How you doing?
Doing all right, all things considered. Not too much to complain about, but life
Yeah,
life has a
yeah,
way of throwing you curveballs every once in a while. So we see what's going to
yeah,
happen next. How about yourself?
yeah. Yeah, been good. Honestly, I had a really better week than I did last week, and I would say it's good. I spent a lot of time. It was productive, so I was studying a lot this week. And part of the things I was actually studying was like the OWASP,
Nice.
like the OWASP top 10 security stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting to actually learn about this stuff. But some of it I was thinking, I see how it could like be useful for in web development, but I find maybe if you are a very niche dev, like maybe you work like front end only and you don't really have like a lot of like I don't know how much you can really benefit from those things. And I say this right now, but maybe when I go in depth into like my knowledge of it, or maybe looking more into like the list, maybe I can find stuff. Because right now, one of the things was like broken authentication. Like, of course everybody knows like you you don't mess with things like this. But and also like you have to encrypt your password, stuff like this. I don't even know. You know what? Have you ever been to a website in the last 10 years with an unencrypted password? Like you see your own password.
Yeah,
I
no, that
mean,
that hasn't really happened in a while. But I definitely remember the sites where you click uh remind me of my password, and then they just send you your password in plain text, and you're like, "Huh?" Like, it was not a reset password, it was a password reminder at that time. So, yeah, that was not particularly fun. But I
how
don't
long was this? How long ago is this?
that was quite some time ago. That was probably more than 10 years ago, I would say. I haven't really seen anything like that recently. I see new trends. I see trends where sites abandon the whole idea of a password and they just do some sort of email magic link or something like that instead.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
OAuth, yeah, like OAuth
Or
too, like
OAuth, yeah, that's basically like social sign-on. That's proliferated quite a bit, so that's pretty much everywhere now. They made it really easy to integrate, which is nice. Um, and in fact, like for the software that I'm running for my own home lab and my other services, I actually have like an auth provider where I can use my own auth server to log in into various systems that I control with like a single
mhm.
sign on, which is kind of cool.
You know, I know that you don't really like some. Maybe I should not answer for you, but I think I can tell like your opinions on products like Google products. So if you're doing like yeah, or what like tell me who who is your provider, like your security provider for your authentication?
Mm, I
Do
don't
you have
really.
open source for this? I don't think there is an open source like
So it's kind of interesting. Like before auth, what was the. So, like, the original standard was called OpenID, and it was developed by LiveJournal back in the day. Um, and like the early version of OpenID. So right now, like if you try to do social sign in, they would usually have like a list of things that the website supports. Like you can log in using Google, you can log in using Facebook, you could log in using
mm-hmm,
whatever,
mm-hmm,
Instagram, right? Twitter, X. Anyway, but the list is controlled by the site's operator. They say that we basically connect through those platforms, but not other ones. But in the original implementation that LiveJournal did, you could just say, oh, here's a URL of the site that will act as my identity provider. So you can literally plug in any OpenID compatible site and authenticate and, provide you with their profile information from that site to the site that you want to log into. So it was basically open. It was not tied down to any specific provider. But I think the original standard has experienced some security. I think that when they came up with it, because it was so new, they did not account for all of these attacks that eventually got developed. So once they went for like OpenID, OAuth, and OpenID, like the newer versions, and OpenID Connect and things like that, it shifted quite dramatically between the versions. And now the sites usually tend to control what sort of authentication providers they would allow. And for most part, if it's like a development-oriented site, I would use my GitHub account as a identity provider. And I don't think I've ever used my Google account. A lot of the sites now, you visit the site, and once it detects that you're like logged into Google, it shows that little pop-up. It's like authenticate as yourself through Google. I usually don't. I still prefer email and password auth for most part. One of the reasons being is that with a centralized authentication provider, I don't know. Let's say, the political environment changes and Google finds something that I said in one of the episodes we recorded half a year ago offensive, and they decide to terminate my account because of that. It can happen. It totally can happen, right?
Really?
Well, yeah. Like people said something on the platform, and then they got basically deleted out of all of their services, including the ability to sign in into other sites that they previously signed into, and did not attach any other means of authentication. So like, why would I give them that power? Even though I don't think that it's gonna happen, like the likelihood is not high enough. But for my own personal sanity, it's like, why would I even allow for the opportunity in the first place? That's like one of the reasons. It is unlikely that they're gonna get breached. The other reason too is, I think we talked about it briefly couple of months ago, was when some sites were basically allowing Facebook sign-in on their properties, but they weren't verifying the audience claim in the tickets that they would receive in like the authentication tokens. And so somebody basically made like some sort of mobile game that you sign into using your Facebook credential, and then they would take that credential and try to use it on that site, because the site says, oh, it came from Facebook, therefore it must be good. But it was not for you, it was for that game, but you still took it as a valid one and got access to people's profiles that way. So like, I want to minimize those types of situations as well, where some malicious actor can potentially abuse. It's like a combination of incompetent person on one side and malicious person on the other side, interfacing through the same system, being able to abuse it for their own purposes. Again, the likelihood of that happening is not high, but why allow the possibility in the first place? So, yeah, that's kind of the main ones, I would say.
So you would rather go GitHub. So that means you like use a Microsoft. How do you feel about Microsoft product? Do you find them more?
I mean, it's
Google-like?
all it's just different flavors of the same BS, I would say. I mean, I have a Microsoft account because I used Skype, RIP, and at some point in time they basically converted everybody from like a Skype account into a Microsoft account. So I have one of those that I pretty much only ever use for Skype for as long as it's gonna remain alive. Not that I use it on a daily, but if I were to sign in into it, like, I'm still using that account. And
Does it work now?
Skype?
It's still Skype, right?
I think it still does, but they're sunsetting it pretty soon. So it's going to be converted to Teams, and Teams is an unholy abomination, can burn in hell for all I care. So yeah. I still can't get over the fact how brutally they massacred Skype. It's just unthinkable how they managed to mess it up so bad. Oh well.
Yeah, it used to be the cool stuff then,
It used to
Like,
be the
yeah,
goat. It used to be the
let's stop
goat.
on Skype. That
Yeah.
was it
It
was
was like
really
let's
cool.
I'll Skype you. That was basically it turned into a
Yeah,
verb.
yeah,
And now it's
yeah,
Zoom completely took it over, right? A
yeah.
lot of people say Zoom even when they don't mean Zoom itself,
Zoom.
just video
Yeah,
conferencing, right? So I don't know how they managed to fumble that bag so thoroughly, but it is what
it's
it
so
is.
sad, but
Yeah.
it's like I think it's the same. If you compare the fall off, would you compare it to like Nokia or like BlackBerry?
Ooh. That's a really interesting question. Um,
Because I feel like yeah, Nokia also felt really bad. Eh,
well, yeah. I mean, like iPhone definitely destroyed that entire segment. And I think that like when Google came out with the first Android phone, it was something quite special. Because prior to that, effectively you were limited to Symbian. And I think Nokia. Symbian was Nokia, I think.
I
They
think
had
so.
their own proprietary personal assistant. It wasn't even called like a smartphone at the time, right? It was like a
Hmm.
PDA with a phone.
Yeah.
You had Windows CE, and then you had Windows Mobile, and you had, I guess, in a very small sector, you had Palm OS, which I still remember very fondly. I love my Palm. I still have my Palm somewhere in my drawer.
Proof.
Um, and there was Symbian and
Hmm.
not much else. And all of the sort of feature phones had their own operating systems with like Java applets, but they, I guess, didn't read the market. It would be really interesting to kind of analyze the reasons why BlackBerry and Palm and Nokia have failed. I think at least BlackBerry and Nokia failed for different reasons. Because one of the big selling point for BlackBerry was specifically their um, the integrated services. So like you didn't just get a phone that can talk to other phones, but you had the BlackBerry ecosystem, like the messaging. It was all
Hmm.
like companies could host those things on premise, and then their BlackBerry users would connect into the mothership. So it wasn't public infrastructure. It was like highly isolated corporate infrastructure. And a lot of companies, especially, where you have like all of these security requirements and data retention requirements and all of that kind of stuff, they love BlackBerry because they controlled everything except for cellular towers and public airwaves. But, that's just a carrier in terms of data. But the ecosystem BlackBerry owned. That's why a lot of people still kept using their Blackberries after a really long time after like iPhone introduction because it was not interoperable outside of that ecosystem. But Nokia was a hardware manufacturer among other things. So I think that I don't know. I still kind of remember the glory days of cell phone design where it wasn't just
Hmm.
a brick like every other brick. And there was like a lot of really quirky, fun visually aesthetically different designs. Like I mean the 8800 Sirocco was really good looking phone, or Motorola Razr, out of the like iconic ones.
Mm. Yeah,
I don't know.
Razor. Yeah.
They tried
Mm.
reintroducing it recently, but it's just not the same. you know.
They can't compete, They
Yeah, yeah,
can't.
yeah. I mean,
It's too
it's
hard right now.
the form factor. Everybody's just too used to the brick right now,
But you know
and
what?
yeah.
In speaking of like competition, right? I feel like Google has really done something that Microsoft wasn't able to do. Like Microsoft really tried to like break into the phone market. Like they had like those series and stuff, but Google has done good for themselves with this like um Pixel.
Yeah, yeah.
The Pixel. Like right now they are doing the Google Pixel 9 is it's making rounds, no?
Yeah,
Like I
but
feel like right now
again,
they're
the Google
comparing
Pixel
it to
9 is like a
iPhone.
$2,000 phone at max specs. Like
Is it?
it's really expensive. Like the top tier models across the entire lineup, pretty much with every company. It I've seen it happen myself because I've been basically I had a Google Pixel 5 I think it was Pixel 5. It was like a very tiny phone. Like if you line up all the phones that I had once I switched to Android based phones, Pixel would be like very tiny compared to the freaking shovels that we get today. And it was a really good phone. And from that, I switched to OnePlus. Because when OnePlus released their first phone, the OnePlus One, their whole selling point was that you get like top tier specs for fraction of the cost. I think OnePlus One cost like $300 at the time. And meanwhile,
Really?
the Pixel was like $600 or $700. It was an expensive phone. So or something along those lines. But like OnePlus One was considerably cheaper and boasting like same type of CPU, RAM that top tier lineup phones had at the time. But their current models basically follow the same pricing structure. I think that as a hardware manufacturer, you just can't survive offering like low prices when people are they're generally prepared to pay over $1,000 or more for like a top of the line phone these days. So if they're willing to pay $1,500 for a phone, why would you sell it for $600 and forgo all of that profit, right? So they just readjust it same as everybody else in the market. And there's a couple of companies which are kind of playing the same game where they're trying to break into it by offering powerful phones at like budget prices. But I think once they establish the foothold, they kind of get the same idea. It's like, hey, if people are willing to pay $2,000 for a phone, why would we sell it for $500? It doesn't make any sense financially.
Well, which phone is $2,000 though? $2,000.
Well, look at the iPhone 16 Pro Max at the max specs. Like, how much does that thing cost?
I don't think it cost up to $2,000 though.
I think it's like at least $1,800.
Honestly, I would doubt it. I think it's like maybe 1,200 tops. Or maybe $800 because like right now
for
iPhone
16 Pro
really...
Max,
yeah,
with like 1 terabyte of storage. Well, let's just see. Okay,
yeah,
from 1449. So the shittiest version of iPhone 16 Pro is $1,500. Pro Max is from 1,750. So the top tier model is gonna be at least $2,000 after all the taxes and everything. Yeah. So 1 terabyte version. $2,350, $2,349 before taxes, Mo. For the top tier iPhone today.
Well, you know what? You have to, I mean, hopefully Apple is watching our podcast and then they can give us like endorsements. So I'm gonna say something nice. So you have to live in luxury, you know? You need to, make yourself believe it's about what you believe, you know? So you order
give us free shit. Give us free shit, Apple. Come on.
Yeah, you have to believe.
Yeah, okay, so Pixel 9 Pro XL, $1,500. Considerably cheaper compared to iPhone, but still $1,500. $1,500.
But Google is really doing good. Honestly, I did not know that they will.
Mo, you can buy a used car for $1,500.
But if you buy a used car for $1,500, you probably spend more money fixing that car. And then pay
right,
more
but the
money
thing
on
is
top of it.
you buy an iPhone for $2,350, and then they release the next one next year for $2,450, and you're gonna go and buy that one too. That's the typical behavior of the iPhone customers. Why do you think they discontinued all of their budget offerings like iPhone S? Because nobody was buying them. People say they want cheap phones, and then everybody goes and buys the most expensive phone there is. So there's literally no point in making cheap phones because nobody wants to buy them because it's a status symbol, and people wanna like
exactly.
What's the name of the bird with the big tail?
Exactly.
They want to show off how rich they are.
Peacock.
So peacock, exactly. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, like exactly, So yeah, you gotta buy the iPhone. You gotta buy the iPhone, Vasili. It's $2,000. You have to show your status. You have to show how rich you are, like how much money you make per year. So like it's a very
and then you can use Klarna with 4 monthly easy payments of $299.99, which means that you probably end up repaying like $5,000 for that phone if you buy it on a purchase plan, because people are fucking stupid.
You see, these are things that, you have to do it. You have to do it. But anyway, I mean, we really segued into this conversation. I was just trying to like figure out who actually fell off. Whose fall off was considerable deeper.
I think they
like
both were
between.
tragic. Well, Nokia exited the cell phone market just recently because they've reintroduced the 3310 some years back, and they were
Nobody's gonna go
still,
back there.
huh?
I think Nokia's problem is marketing. I think you know what they could do better if they actually can do better marketing.
I have no idea what Nokia's problem is. Their slogan used
This
to
is
be
my opinion.
connecting people, but I think people are so connected these days that that wasn't even necessary anymore.
They need to marketing, like they need to be able to. For example, look, Google started pretty late. Google Pixel is less than
Well, what do you mean
8 years.
they started late? They had the first reference implementation of a phone for Android operating system with the G1.
They
That
had
it
the
was
operating
I was
system.
actually HTC that was building their phones for the
Exactly.
longest time.
Exactly. They had HTC
Yeah.
and they weren't, it wasn't Google. They had the Android, but the operating system, but they didn't have like a hardware, like a
But
phone.
I mean, they had to be in a very, very intimate partnership with HTC to make sure that everything works as expected. So I'm pretty sure, in terms of knowledge sharing and all of the IP and all of that stuff, they were like, pretty tight. So it's not like they didn't have any expertise and HTC held all the cards. Because where's HTC now?
Good question. Right now, look at Microsoft. They had all the resources too, but they couldn't hack the market. Like, you're not gonna use a Lumia. What is the name of those phones?
No,
They like a
Lumia
Lumia.
wasn't that Nokia. That was Nokia phones with Microsoft mobile operating system, I think.
Yeah, but I don't even remember those phones now.
And the
Anyway,
funny
like,
the funny thing is that people who used those phones, and the
mhm,
other thing, remember Zune?
yeah,
Yeah. But the thing
yeah,
is a lot of people who use them love them.
of
It's just most people
course.
didn't really get into it, so they like to dunk on it. But from what I heard from people who actually use them, really liked them. Paradox. So maybe it is marketing. It is just
It is
not
marketing. They just
not
didn't like.
appealing to the correct audience.
Yeah,
And yeah,
imagine,
who's to say?
imagine if
Who's to
Nokia
say?
could like, if Nokia sponsors our podcast, and then we start to talk about them on our podcast. Then this is a
Yes.
good starting
Then
step,
all 120 people that have subscribed and haven't really watched anything will go and buy themselves a Nokia phone.
Exactly,
Exactly.
Vasili. This
Yes.
is this is how to market. Like they need to start from like, from
Give
here.
give money now. So,
They need they
what
need
was I
to
gonna
start from
say?
here.
I mean, did you see the movie Idiocracy? I think I probably asked you
uh,
that like 3 times already, and you still haven't done
no,
it.
I don't know. I still haven't seen it. Oh, it's my
So
bad.
it's about the future, and the main costume designer, when picking footwear for the movie, she picked a brand that was supposed to be like futuristic but ridiculous. And she contacted the small company and said, like, she used their products for the movie because she said, like, nobody in their right mind are gonna wear those shoes, so it's fine. Like, even though like we're using it in a movie, it's not gonna be a big deal. You know what that company was?
Oh,
Crocs.
Nike. Oh,
Crocs.
oh,
And Crocs ended up being like
oh.
super freaking popular for no good reason, and everybody loves Crocs. But original Crocs,
Yeah.
man, they were ugly as sin. Like, but apparently,
That
again, people who are
that was
wearing
the
them,
selling
telling
point.
them that they were like really comfortable and really easy, and people loved them. So you never know. You never know with these things.
I like Crocs.
People tend to
Do you
like
have?
weird stuff. I don't have Crocs.
I like Crocs. It's cool. You get to wear it like, I mean, but I don't do like, some people like it so much that they will wear it like to like serious places.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, come on, man. Like, yeah, you if you use Crocs, you have to know where to draw the line. You don't get you have to respect the line,
Yeah.
But yeah, Crocs is not bad. Honestly,
It's not bad
uh
now. They've like drastically extended their lineup.
improve it, yeah.
It's like
Yeah, they
Crocs and
improved it.
Uggs. Like Uggs used to be like 2010 typical Starbucks latte drinking basic bitch apparel is the Uggs. You know, it was just like, oh, here's a girl in August wearing fur-based boots. Good job. That was just ridiculous. But I
Yeah,
mean, they have such a massive lineup now. They've like diversified from their classical look into just footwear in general, and they're doing pretty well for
yeah.
themselves.
They even have for guys now, so
Yeah,
you
I
can't
would
get
not be
one too,
caught in
Vasili.
that in a million years.
Yeah, well, you say that now, you never know.
It's
It could look
true.
good. You
It's
never
true.
know.
You never
And
know.
they could also like be an sponsor our podcast. So like, shout out to Uggs. shout, out to, shout out to Uggs. You know, we we love Uggs. I love Uggs. So we'll see. We'll see.
Okay, Mo,
Anyway,
you'll be the brand ambassador for Uggs.
I don't mind. Oh, it's a pretty cool shoe. They make really nice footwear. So like, we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, moving on. Yeah, over
Sure.
the in like recently, I sent you like some post on like social media,
Oh yes, yes.
and yeah, remember, and
I
there was
do.
one
I
that
do.
actually I want to talk about. You know, the one that was saying like write barcodes
Hmm.
and write barcodes.
Yeah.
You want to learn how to code? The guy said, you want to learn how to code? Write barcodes.
Yep.
Write barcodes, and then over time you start to write good codes. This is to me flat. You know what? Before I go to share my opinion on it, because I think this is capital BS. First of all, this is a very social media post, and I think people eat stuff like this up, and then they say, "Yeah, write barcodes." And I first of all, who are you writing these barcodes for? Like, if you're
I, I,
writing
I
it at
think I think well, it's kind of a spicy post. I think that overall message is not wrong. I don't I think the fact that it's written in an imperative is the problem. Like the causality chain is not the causality, but it's kind of inverted because you can't if you just started programming, you can't immediately write good code. Your first attempt, like your code today, hopefully is better than the code you wrote yesterday. So if you
Mhm,
trace it all the way back to the beginning, in the beginning you write horrible, terrible, no good piece of shit code that does what you want it to
mhm.
do. You
See,
cannot jump to the end without going through all of the stages. So it's not that you have to write bad code. It's just you have to be comfortable with writing bad code, knowing that the more you practice, the better you're going to end up. That's how I would interpret it in a very kind of positive way.
yeah, but I'm gonna tell you how I read this. I'm not. I agree with you that you have to start from somewhere, and your code quality hopefully improves over time. But
Not
don't,
for, not for everyone.
don't. I think, I think you should say something like, you know, um, over time you get better, something like this. Like, because if you write bad code, first of all, how do you even know if you're writing it at home that your code is bad?
I think that
Because
your assumption should be that you're writing bad code.
how do you even know what you're writing that it is bad if you don't even know what good code is? First
It's
of all,
fair. It's fair. It's
and
all highly relative. Again, we kind of
and
had this example like if you write a shitty 5-line shell script that
mhm,
quickly does something that you need to do right now and it's completely horrible and not like clean or not reusable in any way, but it solved your problem at that moment, is it still bad code or is it just good enough for what you needed to do?
do you see the line? Do you see the line? This is the line now. So like, how do you define this line? You are just starting out. Everybody at some point cannot say like, oh yeah, I don't write bad code, or like you. Everyone has something in their cupboard to say like, yeah,
Yeah.
this is something. And even if you've been there doing it for years, you still probably have. Sometimes you feel like this, like, oh yeah, this could have been better. I could have done this differently.
I
Every
mean,
year you look back at your
if you
code and you feel
don't,
like this.
yeah, if you don't look at your code and think that you could have done something differently, I would be
Yeah,
concerned.
yeah,
But
yeah. So
I think, like, if I go back kind of through my process, is that a lot of the informal learning of what good quote unquote code is that I've written some code and then it jumped up and slapped me in the face, and I realized why it did that and learned a lesson and incorporated that into my repertoire, and also identified like the specific code smell associated with that time. So next time I see that code, I can be like, I already got smacked in the face by something like this, so likely there's something to it. Let's analyze and see if that lesson from the past applies. And so the bad code is, the good code, it avoids all of the painful lesson problems that you had to experience in your past.
This is experience,
Yes.
you know, and it doesn't necessarily translate to good code, because your experience, I can explain what I'm saying, right? So like, let's say you learn to, like you said, something smacked you in the face, but you learn to like put a colon somewhere so it no longer slaps you in the face. But that does not mean that this is the right thing to do.
No, but if you multiply it times 1,000, some patterns are going to emerge, which will start shaping you and pointing you in the direction of what good code looks like. Because it's not just about that one thing versus this one bad thing that you can do. It's the amalgamation of all of them all at once.
My concern about this idea is that we need to be able to define what bad code is and what good code is.
It's aesthetic. You can't necessarily define it. You can always define bad code. I don't think that you can clearly define good code.
So you see? So now, like...
So then by definition, good code is absence of bad code.
Exactly. So like, how do you measure? Like, if you cannot really like trace your like progress, like, because even if you're writing like bad code, who are you giving it to? Like, are you writing it for yourself or you're writing it for your employer? Who is paying for this bad code?
I don't think that this is relevant to the purpose of growing in terms of how you view quality in general. I mean, even with the thing is that in professional environment, even if you know how to not write bad code, sometimes you have to cut corners and put that in anyway just to get shit done. So somebody's gonna be paying for it at some point in time, and that's not the point, you know. The point is, you know, it's like an Adventure Time when Jake tells Vince, like, before you become good at something, you have to kind of start sucking at something first, and then you progress.
No, for sure you're gonna suck. But
so it's unavoidable. Like, writing bad code is unavoidable. And if you can do it on your own time, your employer will probably appreciate it more than if you do it on their time. But you have to go through that stage. There's no not going through that stage. Unless we have like the whole Matrix upload, I know Kung Fu style moment. Up until then, you have to have stuff smack you in the face countless times before you realize what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, I agree with you, like over time, progress. But if you get comfortable writing bad codes, you build patterns. Say, for example, I've had to learn like a different language from my first language. And so I take French, for example. There are some ways that I say certain things in French.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's not, I don't think it's exactly how it should be said, you know,
right.
Like maybe like the structure of the grammar or something like this. But I got comfortable saying it like this. And nobody ever said it to me that, oh yeah, you should fix it. Because if I say it that way, you understand it anyway.
I think people are just less pedantic about these things. But, you know, with natural languages, same as, I guess, with programming languages, the whole point of a language is ultimately to be understood. So if you said it slightly wrong and were understood correctly, then what's the big deal?
Exactly. So now, do you call this kind of pattern a good code or a bad code? Or it's just bad code that nobody's saying anything about?
it could be both. And I think that it's just like, if I communicate with somebody and they are learning my language, and I realize that they're like not progressing in learning my language, and it takes me all this extra effort to understand what they're trying to say, eventually I'll probably stop talking to that person because it's just way too much effort. But if they're making constant progress and getting to fluency, then it's all good, right? It's like, well, good for you. So it's kind of the same. It's like, if the computer did the thing you wanted it to do once, good. It's just we have different requirements. It's like, not only you have to be understood once, but like you have to be understood millions of times in high performance scenarios. So it has all these additional constraints, right, that natural language doesn't necessarily have. And so it's not a perfect parallel between the two, but as long as you're understood and everybody's happy with it, it's good enough. Like, I don't think that there, like, is there some platonic ideal in terms of what good code is? I think it's so highly subjective, and it's so much of it is about aesthetic that, you know, 3 people will have 5 different opinions on it.
You see, my own advice, or like my own way to see it, would have been like, seek knowledge, like seek what you improvement, like learn to read. Like, so for example, like you have to see how to do things better. I could be in my house and make pasta, you know. I make pasta for me. This is my pasta. How I make it, I enjoy
But
it.
an average Italian would probably have a heart attack if he saw how you make the pasta.
Exactly my point. So if I want to make good pasta, making pasta every night does not make me a good pasta maker.
Well,
like
before you understand how to make good pasta, you have to actually try one to understand what it actually is.
Yeah, so you need to seek out what is a good one. So if you're
Like,
starting,
so it's kind of interesting because first you have to seek out the result. Like, you don't necessarily know what makes it good. You can just reliably say, because, you know, you can reliably say that the pasta at an Italian restaurant tastes orders of magnitude better than something that I can do at home. And at least you have a point of comparison. So now if you're making pasta every night, you can say, am I approaching that or not? And adjust your behavior accordingly.
You already seek knowledge.
I'm saying that you need something to compare to understand if you're making progress or not. Yeah.
Yeah, reference. So yeah, I guess this reference would be what I think was missing in that post. But again,
and then again, if I make a pasta that every Italian would have a collective heart attack, but I like it, who the hell cares? Who the hell is gonna tell me otherwise? Like, sure, you know.
Well, so I guess that's what the point I was trying to make. Like, first of all, it's very relative. Like, the definition of what a good code is and what a bad code is.
I think you can clearly point out instances of bad code. It's much easier than point out instances of good code. It's kind of like art and architecture. All of those things are highly subjective, but you can see something really stupid and be like, this is BS. But when it comes to saying why this particular thing is good, it's a very kind of abstract. I talked with my mom a lot about like art and things of that nature. But, you know, if you look at Michelangelo's Venus or something of that nature, of that caliber, you're immediately understanding that it is good without even having to kind of think about it too much. You just look at it like, holy, how did he manage to do that? That is amazing. If you ever seen it in person.
But it is good. I mean, if it is good, see.
But the thing is like, if you, I don't know. I was gonna say that it's good regardless. But then I remember the case of this violinist who was playing on a subway station in New York, and he had like some $50,000 or $250,000 Stradivarius violin, and he was playing a concerto in New York at a subway station, and like 2 or 3 people stopped to watch him play. And then the next day, he was playing at one of the huge concert halls where tickets were like $1,000 per piece or something. And a lot of people went in their bow ties and like suits and everything. And he was playing same thing using the same violin on a corner, and nobody gave a shit. So again, it's kind of all about marketing, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends. But at the end of the day, like, we need to, I would say, like, writing, if you know what bad code is, like, if you get to the point where you can identify bad code, writing it every day does not make you to end up writing good code. I think, first of all, you have to seek knowledge on how to improve. For example, they're like best practices, like every framework or something like or library have like recommended practices or
Well,
concepts.
you
There are
know,
different concepts right now, like with
yeah.
architecture stuff that you could like learn about. I think this is when you start to tell yourself that you're writing good code. Not
But then
because you're
at the
solving
same time,
complex
at the
problems.
same time, if we look at the curious case of, damn, what's the gentleman's name? The guy who wrote Temple OS. He wrote an entire system by himself. Unfortunately, he was a schizophrenic, I think, and with the delusions of speaking to God, and God told him to write a real mode operating system in 64-bit assembly, and he did it by himself. He wrote an operating system, a language, a compiler, a graphical UI, several games, a program for like reading the Bible and doing all of these things by himself. He was like progressing into decline every time, and he was like ranting and raving about various conspiracies and whatnot. But he was writing code by himself in complete isolation, I think, the day after. He was a commercial programmer originally, working for like Ticketmaster of all places. But then that all fell apart. Well, Ticketmaster, a bunch of crooks, so who cares?
Oh.
But anyway,
Okay.
the whole point is that he wrote this thing in isolation, and it is a monument to human ingenuity. I don't know if it can be considered bad code or good code, but it is the type of stuff that his operating system allows you to do is not present in anything else right now. It is unique and in a lot of ways revolutionary. It's quite backward in a lot of ways too. Like, but that's not the point. It's just that he achieved this
Do you
monumental
use it?
thing, by himself in
So
isolation.
I think one thing that maybe may not be clear is that solving complex problems does not mean that you're writing good code. Like you could be able to write code to solve like more complex problems.
Yeah,
That does not
that
translate
is
to good code.
absolutely true. If you look at the data
Like
scientists, they solve really complex problems and they write really shitty Python and R, like horrible, horrible Python code. Just horrible, terrible. Solves their problem though.
but writing code every day could help you to solve complex problems. But when you talk about writing good code, writing it every day does not, because you're training like your muscle memory, you can remember things faster, you know where to look for or whatever references you need. So yeah, you getting comfortable. But when it comes to like following like best practices, best architecture stuff, and like
Best by
this is like on
whose
the
opinion, first of all?
um
Because that is
they're
highly
like
subjective too. Like saying that this is a
true,
best practice is highly subjective too.
yeah, true, but there are some that you can at least like follow one. You don't have to follow everyone. Or
You
like,
have to
for
you have to
example,
follow what makes sense to you, I think, and a lot of the practices that you could have learned from a book, if you do it enough, you kind of arrive at those practices yourself. You can rediscover a lot of these things
mhm.
even in isolation, so
Yeah, true, true,
um
true, true.
remember when we
Okay.
were talking about like the software laws or whatever? If
Yeah,
we played the same game about various practices, again, I probably would not necessarily know them by name because I read them in a book, but I probably did something similar at some point because I had to solve some specific architectural conundrum. So again, you can arrive at a lot of these things with enough experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, true. True. At the end of the day, I guess maybe at the end of the day, like maybe over time you hit a trying, you could stumble upon it.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that consistently doing something the same way over and over again
I don't think that you're going to be
makes you
doing it
better.
the same way. Because I think that at the end of the day, you should have like that nagging feeling of not being 100% satisfied with how you approached it. So next time you do it, you're going to approach it slightly differently. I don't think that you're an automaton that just like spits out the same exact code every day. I don't think that's possible. And if it is,
Yeah.
then I'm really sad for that person. But
Basically, patterns build very quickly,
yeah,
especially.
you can definitely imprint yourself into a bunch of bad patterns
Mhm.
very quickly, and it takes a really long time to undo. That is true. That is certainly true. So having guidance in these things early on is definitely worthwhile. But then again, um, if I were your mentor, I would say that the advice I give is good, but somebody else may say otherwise, and we both could be right.
I mean, yeah, so I guess if they have someone like you, exactly. You see, now you get a point. So this is how you end up writing good code. So if you write bad code, get a mentor that can show you how to improve it. Or
Mm-hmm.
like get someone to like, yeah, you see, yeah, this is true. So if you get someone to like show you how to improve it, then for
Right,
example, I'm
right.
cooking my
Yeah,
pasta the way
yeah.
I like it at home. I don't know it's bad, so like if
Again, yeah,
one day
that really depends on your audience. If you are your
yeah.
audience, then do whatever the hell you want, whatever makes you happy, whatever
Ex-
works.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, commercially, it's an entirely different story. And I think that not everybody has the luxury of getting a mentor. I wish
yeah, fair enough.
that I had access to somebody with the knowledge at the time when I started playing around with computers. Because I had
Yeah,
no information whatsoever. All of it was just basically poking around. I squeezed a little bit out of it, and I think that I could have gotten so much more if I had somebody who could explain what was actually going on. But that didn't happen. So I guess my
it's
journey could have started when I was like 5 years old and not when I was like 21 years old. Imagine how it could have played out then. Oh.
it probably might be like the Bill Gates now. Maybe you know what? It is meant to be. It is
It is what it is.
it is what it is. But to be honest, like you said, I find very good value in it. Like no matter where you are in life, no matter what stage you think that you are on, and there is always someone who has been where you are,
Yeah,
like has
yeah.
seen what you see. And this is one thing that I enjoy a lot from our conversations, like talking to you and all. So I feel like you've been here. Like whatever I'm doing right now, you probably have done like at some point before. And it's nice to be able to like talk about it. It's like going through life with a GPS, like
Yeah,
someone has been here
just make
before.
sure the
So
GPS doesn't get you in a ditch or a bridge that is missing, because those things have happened too. So
yeah, this
yeah,
is true.
yeah.
But so
If you want
that's
if you want high quality professional mentoring, drop me a line and give money.
yeah, but yeah, so honestly, thank you, Vasili, for your time. So it's
Thanks,
always
Mo.
nice to
It's been fun.
chat.
I talking about BlackBerry and Nokia was not in my 2025 bingo card, that's for sure.
But it was nice,
It was
because
nice. It was nice. Yeah.
yeah, like we got to like talk about some stuff. Like, you forget about these things.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's nice to bring them up.
Imagine
People might not.
imagine like Nokia in 2000 was like the giant of cell phone industry, and now people barely even remember that they existed. How sad is
People
that?
born people born like 15 years ago probably doesn't even know what a Nokia looks like.
Yeah, the 3310, the indestructible phone.
What is Nokia?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Is that
Am I
tire
getting old?
manufacturer from Finland?
Oh, wait, did I just, am I getting old? I'm not getting old, Vasili. No, no.
It's like
Nah.
I read a meme
Uh,
today and it said, I'm different from other teenagers because I'm 30.
yeah. Nah, I'm still young, you know.
Young at
Yeah,
heart.
still young at heart, you know.
All right.
Anyway, thank
Yes,
you,
yes.
Vasily.
In the next episode, we'll talk about international business machines.
That could be a thing.
No, but I mean IBM. Where's
Ah,
IBM
okay.
now? They used to be called international
Oh,
business
yeah.
machines 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are those? I think they're still doing stuff, so actually. They're
Yeah.
still kind of relevant, no?
I guess. I guess. I don't
They're
know.
still
I
kind of
guess. See,
relevant.
that's the thing. I don't know. It used to be a household name 20 years ago. But now, the Big Blue. Who even says Big Blue? Nobody says Big Blue.
Nobody.
Uh.
Nobody says this. Nobody
So,
says this,
yeah,
Vasily.
all of your empires will crumble and turn to dust eventually. As the Jewish proverb says, this too shall pass.
Fair enough. Fair enough. iPhone, though? You think so?
Everything, Mo. Everything. Nobody's immune from entering the river that erases the memories. Not to get all philosophical here, but yeah.
Yeah, we got there.
We got there. We got there. Yeah.
We got there.
We'll start off with something cheerier next time and maybe finish
Okay.
with something even more cheerier next time. So we'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.